This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump warns Hamas to release all Israeli hostages by this weekend or all hell will break loose. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A federal judge says the Trump administration has not fully followed his order to unfreeze federal spending. Sagar Meghani at the White House.
Worldwide reaction to new tariffs enacted by President Trump. We'll have details.
The Defense Department announces a pause surrounding transgender members of the military. I'm Clayton Neville.
Big tech had a big day on Wall Street. Meta reached a milestone no other company ever has. I'm Jill Schneider.
Elon Musk makes an offer for OpenAI. The NFL sacks a halftime show dancer, and the Super Bowl for canines. All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump delivers an ultimatum to release all the remaining Israeli hostages after Hamas announces the next round of those allowed to leave. John Stolnis has details from Washington.
In their statement, Hamas said they would delay, quote, until further notice, the return of 3 Israeli hostages that were due to be sent home on Saturday, blaming recent Israeli shelling and gunfire in Gaza, as well as a lack of aid into the region. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, President Trump appeared to issue an ultimatum to the terror group.
I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
The president did say it would be up to Israel how to move forward, but also noted the condition of the most recent Israeli hostages that were released.
And they're emaciated. It looked like something out of the 1930s. It's an absolute disgrace.
Trump went on to say he believed many of the remaining hostages are in a similar condition or dead. The president was asked if the Saturday noon deadline is not met, whether there would be retaliation.
You'll find out, and they'll find out too. Hamas will find out what I mean.
Mr. President,
they're going to find out what I mean. These are sick people, and they'll find out what I mean Saturday at 12.
In an interview with Fox News ahead of the Super Bowl, Trump reiterated his desire to temporarily own Gaza and rebuild the Strip, moving the Palestinians into neighboring countries in the process.
would the Palestinians have the right to return?
No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing, much better. In other words, I'm talking about building a permanent place for them, because if they have to return now, it will be years before you could ever. It's not habitable. It will be years before it could happen. I'm talking about starting to build, and I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. You know, we give them billions and billions of dollars a year.
Trump also said he would consider withholding aid from Egypt and Jordan if they didn't take Palestinian refugees inside their borders. John Stolnis, Washington.
A federal judge rules that the Trump administration has been violating a court order to disburse giant funding and hinted at possible penalties. As Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, several Democrat state attorneys general have maintained that the Trump administration has continued to withhold funds. White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, speaking on Fox News, says the president has the right to put holds on spending.
President paused funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion, radical gender ideology, critical race theory, sex changes for minors, foreign aid, as well as certain Green New Deal projects. Also, the resettlement of illegal aliens and the funding to NGOs that resettle illegal aliens. Those are all discretionary, agency-directed spending projects that are not required by law, that are not required by Congress.
A federal judge says the Trump administration has not fully followed his order to unfreeze federal spending. The judge in Rhode Island says the White House has violated his order from late last month, noting continued struggles to get federal money for things like early childhood education and HIV research. He says a broad, categorical, and sweeping federal funding freeze is likely unconstitutional and is ordering the administration to release all the money.
There was a short-term pause or funding freeze on certain discretionary spending payments, such as government grants, only for us to quickly look at the scams, dishonesty, waste, and abuse that's taken place in our government for too long. As was explicitly stated, this in no way affected Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or other entitlements that Americans depend on.
The White House has said it's making good faith efforts to comply in a suit filed by nearly 24 states, including Maryland.
Thank goodness for the courts.
Where Senator Chris Van Hollen says a flurry of illegal Trump actions has drawn a flurry of legal challenges.
We've seen a flurry of court filings because we've seen such a flurry of illegal activity. I've never seen so many temporary restraining orders issued in such a short period of time against the U.S. government.
Sagar Meghani at the White House.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Sleep better together. Save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time, exclusively at a Sleep Number store. New gender policies for the military. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning and lots of active weather around the nation today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
A fast-moving storm will be increasing its coverage across the central and southern plains, eastward through much of the southeast and continuing into the middle Atlantic. Snow will fall on the northern side of the storm and will become increasingly heavy farther to the east through southeast Ohio into West Virginia, Maryland, and southern New Jersey, where many areas will receive 3 to 6 inches of snow and even a swath of 6 to 12 inches through parts of northern Virginia into Delaware. Travel to start the day in these areas will be fine, but those leaving in the afternoon will find increasingly difficult conditions. Not too far to the south, it will be warm enough for rain through eastern Texas and continuing eastward through the Carolinas. There will even be some heavier thunderstorms from southeast Texas through southern Mississippi. Storms could produce a few damaging wind gusts, and rainfall of 1 to 2 inches could produce some localized flooding from Louisiana northward to Tennessee. Meanwhile, another storm will be getting underway late today and tonight over the central Rockies and building into the plains tonight. Steadier snow will expand from southeast Wyoming and Colorado and then move into Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, and Missouri. Several inches of snow will be possible by Wednesday morning, and this storm will continue to impact a large portion of the nation Wednesday into Wednesday night. Looking out west, we're going to see it starting out dry today, but clouds will be building through central California with a fast storm arriving. Some showers could reach the coast by late in the day with steadier rain and mountain snow developing over California. Another decent, robust storm will arrive on Thursday. That's the weather across America. An umbrella should be handy in Houston, Texas today with some showers and thunderstorms around and a high of 75. Cincinnati, Ohio will have to watch for slippery travel with some snow today and a high of 34. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Saying that this is the beginning of making America rich again, President Trump signed the order imposing 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports. The proclamations impose that tariff on steel imports from all countries and raise his 2018 aluminum tariffs from 10 to 25% without exceptions or exemptions. Most of the steel used by American firms is domestically produced. The United Steelworkers Union released a statement showing concern. Canada is the largest supplier of steel to the U.S., followed by Brazil, Mexico, South Korea, and Vietnam. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is following a recent executive order from President Trump with a pause on gender policies in the military. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Research from the Palm Center shows that there are about 15,000 transgender U.S. military members. That's about 1% of the nearly 1.5 million people in the military. President Trump has promised and started implementing gender policy changes.
We've gotten the woke lunacy out of our military.
Late last month, the president signed an executive order rescinding President Biden's policies that allowed transgender service members to serve openly in the military based on their gender identity. During his last term, Trump banned the service of transgender troops.
The radical left has waged an all-out campaign to erase the very concept of biological sex and replace it with a militant transgender ideology.
In a memo to Pentagon staff this week, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said effective immediately, all new accessions for people with a history of gender dysphoria are paused. He added that all unscheduled, scheduled, or planned medical procedures associated with affirming a gender transition for service members are paused. A congressional report shows the Defense Department spent about $15 million on surgical and non-surgical care for more than 1,800 transgender active duty service members between 2016 and 2021. I'm Clayton Neville.
Not interacting well with ChatGPT, Amazon. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. With the Tuesday Report, here's CNBC's Jill Schneider.
Wall Street opens this morning after a day of green arrows across the board. The Dow gained 167 points, the S&P 500 rose 40, and the Nasdaq jumped 190. All of the Mag 7 stocks finished higher except for Tesla, which lost 3%. Meta posted gains for the 16th day in a row. That's the longest winning streak ever for any mega cap name. McDonald's led the Dow higher, adding about 5%, despite a mixed bag of quarterly results. Supermicro added more than 17% yesterday. The company will release its latest earnings after today's closing bell. Since ChatGPT has come on the scene, Amazon has been criticized for being behind in AI. But as DeepSeek shakes up the market, some are taking a second look at Amazon's strategy. Here's CNBC's Kate Rooney.
The sentiment around Amazon's AI playbook is much more positive right now. There had been this feeling on Wall Street and in Silicon Valley that when it came to the AI race we talk so much about, Amazon was caught flat-footed. So the negativity has really shifted, at least from what I'm hearing. Amazon is getting a lot more credit for being what one investor described to me as the Switzerland.
Will the penny soon be a thing of the past? President Trump says he's ordering the Treasury Department to stop minting new pennies because they cost more to make than they're worth. On Tuesday's watch list, earnings coming from Coca-Cola, Humana, and DoorDash. Fed Chair Powell testifies before the Senate Banking Committee. An AI Action Summit continues in Paris. Vice President J.D. Vance will attend.
CNBC's Jill Schneider. A consortium of investors led by Elon Musk sent shockwaves through Wall Street and the technology world by offering an unsolicited bid of over $97 billion to acquire OpenAI. Chuck Palm has an overview of why Musk wants to buy it, as well as the company's response.
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman promptly replied on X, "No thank you, but we'd be willing to buy Twitter for $9.74 billion if you want." Musk said in a release that it's time for OpenAI to return to the open source, safety-focused force for good that it once was, and we'll make sure that happens. The theory is that Musk would acquire OpenAI and merge it with his popular Grok artificial intelligence program that is part of the X platform.
America in the Morning's tech correspondent Chuck Palm. In the past few months, Musk filed a series of legal complaints accusing OpenAI of betraying its nonprofit mission by creating a for-profit segment of the company, as well as concluding with its largest investor, Microsoft, in what Musk claimed was to dominate the development of artificial intelligence. According to the Wall Street Journal, Musk's offer is being backed by his own company called XAI, along with several longtime investors in other Musk-related businesses. Flap continues over controversial NFL halftime show when America in the Morning returns after these messages. America in the Morning continues. Controversy remains surrounding the Super Bowl halftime show and a dancer who displayed a Palestinian flag. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on the protester and reaction by the NFL.
New Orleans police say they won't file charges against the cast member who displayed the Palestinian flag with the words Gaza and Sudan in protest during Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show. But the NFL says the protester will be banned for life from league, stadiums, and events. The NFL says the flag display was not planned and that the show's producer, Rock Nation, was unaware of the cast member's intentions. The banner combined the black stripes of the flags honored by the Sudanese and Palestinian peoples. One of the performers held it high while standing on the roof of the car that was the centerpiece of Kendrick Lamar's performance. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Football has the Super Bowl, baseball, the World Series, and move over Puppy Bowl as correspondent Julie Walker reports on the big dogs.
It's the Super Bowl for dogs, the Westminster Kennel Club show. The multi-day event got underway at New York's Madison Square Garden and ends Tuesday with the crowning of the top dog. Westminster Kennel Club President Donald Sturts explains what makes a winner.
It's a great dog having a great night. That's what determines the best of show winner at Westminster. There's just something that dog brings that night that just put them a notch above, the other great dogs in the ring.
First, judges pick a top dog from each breed, which then competes against other dogs in its group. For example, toy dogs. The 7 group winners then face off for best in show. Last year, Sage, a miniature poodle, won. Julie Walker, New York.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, February 11th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, the latest involving USAID.
A government shutdown threat is looming, but this time it's coming from the Democrats. I'm Pamela Furr.
Winter weather takes hold in the U.S. I'm Clayton Neville.
The head of a federal agency that protects whistleblowers is suing President Trump. Sagar Meghani at the White House.
Who were some other winners and losers at the Super Bowl? I'm Kevin Carr.
New York City's mayor's legal case could be dropped. The Trump administration makes moves with Ukraine and Russia, and the latest on an Arizona plane crash. Robert Workman has sports, and later in the show, the new incredibly high cost of eggs. Back after these messages. America in the Morning continues with rain and snow, part of the national picture today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
A storm will quickly increase its coverage across the central and southern plains, eastward through much of the southeast and continuing into the middle Atlantic. On the southern side of the storm, there'll be warm enough for rain through eastern Texas, expanding eastward through the Carolinas. And there'll be even some heavier thunderstorms from southeast Texas through southern Mississippi. Thunderstorms could produce a few damaging wind gusts, and rainfall of 1 to 2 inches could produce some localized flooding from Louisiana northward to Tennessee. Snow will fall on the northern side of the storm and become increasingly heavy farther to the east through southeast Ohio into West Virginia, Maryland, and southern New Jersey, where many areas will receive 3 to 6 inches of snow, and we'll look for a swath of 6 to 12 inches in parts of northern Virginia into Delaware. Travel to start the day is going to be fine, but this afternoon it is going to be quite difficult, and if you're headed out tonight, even worse so. Another storm will get underway late today and tonight over the central Rockies. That will be building into the plains. Steadier snow will expand from southeast Wyoming and Colorado and then continue into Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, and Missouri. Several inches of snow will be possible by Wednesday morning. And this storm will continue to impact a large portion of the nation Wednesday into Wednesday night from the plains to the east. Looking out west, it's going to start out dry today, but clouds will build in through central California with a fast system arriving. Some showers could reach the coast by late in the day, with steadier rain and mountain snow developing over central California. Another more robust storm will follow this one on Thursday. Elsewhere, a weaker system will be moving across the northeast with a few snow showers through northern New York into New England. And the northern plains will be dry today with some sunshine, though it will be quite cold again with temperatures below zero for some. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. In Washington, a government watchdog group says that the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, has lost almost all of its ability to track over $8 billion in unspent and warehoused humanitarian aid following the Trump administration's foreign funding freeze, and fears some of the stockpiles could fall into the hands of America's enemies abroad. Correspondent Hayapan Jwani reports as federal workers demonstrate outside USAID offices, there are continued calls to shut down the agency.
Look at all the fraud that he's found in this USAID. It's a disaster what the people, radical left lunatics, they have things that nobody would have even believed. The whole thing with $100 million spent on you know what, with money going to all sorts of groups that shouldn't deserve to get any money, with the money. I'd like to see what the kickbacks are.
William Whelan, a retired USAID employee, says that he worked for the agency to help starving people worldwide.
This program helped people not only who face starvation, but it helped Americans. So I find it hard to believe that Americans wouldn't understand the mutual benefit.
Taylor Williamson, a furloughed implementing partner, says the stop work order has put much at risk.
Those stop work orders have prevented me from providing services around the world that help keep America safer and stronger by promoting trade partnerships, by ensuring that we are tracking and monitoring infectious diseases and making sure that they don't come to our shores, and ensuring that people around the world understand that America is filled with good, kind-hearted people who understand the importance of having relationships abroad.
A federal judge dealt Trump and Musk their first big setback in their dismantling of the agency, ordering a temporary halt on plans to pull thousands of agency staffers off the job.
I think that the bigger picture for why this is so important for the United States, and not to be too grandiose, but for the world, is I don't want that to get lost. I hope that people understand that this is a really terrible thing that's happening and that we have to do something about it right now.
Hayapan Jwani, Washington.
The U.S. Congress will have to figure out how to fund the government by March 14th, and now Democrats are threatening to allow a shutdown if Republicans don't rein in Elon Musk and the actions of Doge. Here's correspondent Pamela Furr.
Senate Democrats are discussing ways to stop the Trump administration from dismantling government institutions through Doge and what they believe are the whims of Elon Musk. Senator Andy Kim from New Jersey on Meet the Press on Sunday said that could include a government shutdown.
The Republicans are going to try to figure out how they move forward. And they have, for the last 2 years, needed Democratic votes for every single continuing resolution, and they should not count on that this time.
A continuing resolution is something Congress will do to temporarily fund the government until a budget can be agreed on.
They are simply trying to dismantle the government. So yes, look, if we have to take steps to be able to hold them accountable, use the leverage that we have to force it, I cannot support efforts that will continue this lawlessness that we're seeing when it comes to this administration's actions.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer sent a letter to his caucus detailing 4 strategies to counter Trump: investigations, litigation, legislation, and party messaging. He says he's not ready to support a government shutdown yet. I'm Pamela Furr.
Several southern states are under flood watch as a deluge of rain is expected. And maybe the groundhog was right. 6 more weeks of winter. We've got a storm bringing heavy snow and ice to the Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic today and tomorrow. Icing along the I-95 corridor is expected from Virginia to Pennsylvania. With more on the winter weather woes, here's correspondent Clayton Neville.
2 major winter storms expected to bring the highest snowfall totals of the season in some spots. Places like Chicago, Baltimore, and D.C. expected to get dumped on. This Virginia woman concerned about the coming days after she says she was stranded in her home during the last winter storm.
I cleaned my drive and I cleaned my sidewalk. I even had to clean in front of my driveway in order to get my car out because the snow plow didn't come.
Heavy snow expected to fall this afternoon in the Northeast. 4 to 6 inches possible for D.C. and Baltimore. 1 to 3 inches possible in Philadelphia. Places like Louisville, Kentucky, and Delaware expected to get hit hard. Out west, plenty of snow expected with another system in Colorado.
On days like these, it's always a good idea to stay at home if you can.
National Weather Service meteorologists encouraging Americans to be prepared.
It's good to bring along a blanket, a pair of boots, jacket, gloves, and a hat.
And in case you get stranded on the roads,
it's also good to have some kitty litter or sand for traction, jumper cables, a tow rope or tow strap, flares or strobes for visibility, and a shovel, and of course an ice scraper.
Further south, it's wet and nasty outside. A flood watch in effect for portions of Virginia, Kentucky, Georgia, and Tennessee. Up to half a foot of rain possible in some spots. Cold air and heavy rain expected in Dallas and surrounding areas through midweek. I'm Clayton Neville.
New York City's mayor closer to charges being dropped when America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues. I'm John Trout. The Department of Justice is moving to drop the federal corruption case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Fox News is reporting that the acting Deputy Attorney General sent a letter to the acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, instructing them to drop the federal case against Adams and dismiss it without prejudice. Adams was indicted in September on charges including bribery, soliciting campaign contributions from foreign nationals, wire fraud, and conspiracy. He's pleaded not guilty to all the charges. The letter also said the pending prosecution has, quote, unduly restricted Mayor Adams' ability to devote full attention and resources to the illegal immigration and violent crime that escalated under the policies of the prior administration, end quote. We're following that story for continued developments. With Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky preparing to meet with Vice President J.D. Vance at the Munich Security Conference later this week, Ukrainians are expressing hope for progress out of that meeting in ending their nation's war-torn invasion. Jennifer King reports the move comes as President Trump has had a phone conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss ending their war with Ukraine.
We're trying to end that war. It's a war that would have never happened if I were president.
President Trump was tight-lipped with reporters Sunday on Air Force One, but confirmed he's spoken with Russian leader Vladimir Putin on the phone.
We're making progress, but I can't tell you.
In a TV interview, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said the president's prepared to work economic levers to get Putin to the negotiating table, and that European allies will also need to take a greater role going forward. Asked about the upcoming conference, Ukrainians expressed hope and resignation born of nearly 3 years of war. Railway worker Victoria Karakesha says that after all the deaths, she wants a peaceful life and a favorable negotiation.
We want that Americans to look to us, not just to democracy, which they help and to survive during this terrible war, Russia against Ukraine, but look to us as a very important, very interested strategic partner in the future.
Amid fears that the U.S. could halt military aid, Zelensky advisor Andrei Yermak has told the AP they'll present Kyiv's position and want to discuss what security guarantees could prevent repeated aggression by Russia. I'm Jennifer King.
A federal judge has temporarily reinstated Hampton Dellinger as head of the Office of Special Counsel, ruling late Monday that the Trump administration cannot remove him or replace him while the legal battle over his firing continues. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
Office of Special Counsel Chief Hampton Dellinger was told of his firing Friday. He alleges in a federal suit the firing's unlawful and violates decades of precedent over protecting independent agency heads from being removed without cause. Dellinger's suit comes even as Senate Democrats launched a whistleblower portal for government workers, saying they will support those who want to share anything about Trump administration wrongdoing, abuse of power, and threats to public safety. Sagar Meghani at the White House.
Staffers at the nation's cybersecurity agency, whose job it is to ensure the security of U.S. elections, have been placed on administrative leave. Lisa Dwyer reports.
17 employees of the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, who worked with election officials to provide support on a range of threats, from cyber and ransomware attacks to physical security of election workers, have been placed on leave. 10 of those employees are regional election security specialists hired ahead of the 2024 election. Others are current or former members of the agency's Election Security and Resilience team, who were told that the review is looking into agency efforts to combat disinformation and misinformation campaigns. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Authorities confirmed that a plane owned by Motley Crue lead singer Vince Neil was involved in a fatal plane crash at the Scottsdale, Arizona airport. The Arizona Republic newspaper reports that a Lear jet arriving from Austin, Texas, veered off the runway upon landing and smashed into another plane. The jet was registered to a Wyoming-based company that listed Neil as its owner, but he was not on the plane. One person died, 4 others were injured in the crash. The National Transportation Safety Board will conduct an investigation. Elon Musk and a group of investors are making a bid to acquire the hugely popular OpenAI that Musk helped to create. It looks like Sam Altman's having nothing to do with it. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech News.
A group of investors headed up by Elon Musk has offered to buy OpenAI for $97.4 billion. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman promptly replied on X, "No thank you, but we'd be willing to buy Twitter for $9.74 billion if you want." Musk said in a release that it's time for OpenAI to return to the open source, safety-focused force for good that it once was, and we'll make sure that happens. Sam Altman and Elon Musk were co-founders of OpenAI until Musk took umbrage with the fact that Sam Altman wants to take OpenAI public, and as a not-for-profit, he's currently not able to do so. The theory is that Musk would acquire OpenAI and merge it with his popular Grok artificial intelligence program that is part of the X platform. OpenAI was valued at $157 billion last October, and it's likely that Musk's XAI company would face antitrust scrutiny should any deal come to table. Follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
America in the Morning's Robert Workman has a check of Tuesday sports.
NBA on Monday, the Thunder rolled over the Pelicans 137-101. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 31 points, just a bit shy of his league-leading average of nearly 33 points a game. OKC hit a team record 27 three-pointers in the 6th straight victory for the top team in the association. Lakers laid out the Jazz 132-113. LeBron James led all scorers with 24 points. Luka Doncic had 14 in his LA debut. The Lakers have won 6 in a row. Nuggets snuffed out the Blazers 146-117 for their 7th straight victory, 40 points for Nikola Jokic. Cavaliers led wire-to-wire in a 128-107 romp over the Timberwolves, despite 44 from red-hot Anthony Edwards, his 3rd straight 40-plus point game. DeMar DeRozan capped a 42-point night with a baseline floater with 2 seconds left in overtime to boost the Kings over the Mavericks 129-128. Warriors whipped the Bucks 125-111, 38 for Steph Curry, his best game of the season. Celtics stifled the Heat 103-85, 33 for Jason Tatum. Coach Joe Mazzulla.
Creating for himself, creating for others. But, to me, it's when he's locked in defensively. I enjoy giving him the freedom to play more. And so he's getting more minutes, but he's doing the right thing on both ends of the floor, especially defensively.
Spurs spanked the Wizards 131-121, 31 points and 15 boards for Victor Wembanyama. Hawks handled the Magic 112-106 and the Nets over the Hornets 97-89. Despite a loss to Florida last week, Auburn remains number 1 in the latest AP college basketball poll, just ahead of another SEC rival in Alabama. The Crimson Tide edged out the Tigers in the coaches' survey, despite Auburn getting 16 first-place votes to Bama's 15. Duke, Florida, and Tennessee round out the top 5 in both polls. That's Tuesday Sports.
Robert Workman with sports. When we return on America in the Morning, the incredible, edible, unaffordable egg. After these messages. We went through gas rationing in the 1970s, and now in 2025, for some, it feels like you have to take out a second mortgage just to make an omelet. I mean, eggs used to be so cheap that neighborhood vandals would use them to seek revenge on their neighbors. Egg prices have cracked record highs, now averaging $7.50 a dozen in the Midwest. That's triple what it was just 14 months ago, and in a number of states, those cartons have surpassed $9. Many supermarkets are limiting the purchase of eggs, and in California, hundreds of cars were lined up with people waiting to get theirs at a farmer's market. Egg shortages are causing an existential crisis for restaurants. Waffle House and Cracker Barrel are among a number of eateries adding an egg surcharge. One of the reasons prices have skyrocketed is because of an incredibly contagious bird flu, which forced farmers to destroy many of their hens. And don't expect egg prices to drop anytime soon. The Department of Agriculture says we could be paying exorbitant prices at least through the end of summer. Finally, today, people are still talking about Sunday's Super Bowl, and not just about the big game, but about the halftime show and the commercials. Advertisers paid about $8 million for just one 30-second spot. With reaction to those ads and the performance by rapper Kendrick Lamar, here's correspondent Kevin Carr.
The Eagles and the Chiefs weren't the only winners and losers at the Super Bowl.
It's your uncle, Sam, and this is the great American game.
Uncle Samuel Jackson called for calm, but not everybody loved Kendrick Lamar. Some viewers took to social media to complain, calling for a return of pop stars or a country act.
You really about to do it? 40 acres in the mule. This is bigger than the music.
The rapper made several jabs at social injustice, but the big loser was Drake.
Say, Drake, I hate you like I'm young.
Lamar performed Not Like Us, his Grammy-winning Drake diss track, and spotlighted Drake's exes SZA and Serena Williams. This left some criticizing the show for being petty. Then there were the commercials. USA Today's ad meter used viewer engagement to rate the ads.
So, a horse walks into a bar.
At the top was Budweiser's First Delivery and Lay's The Little Farmer a close second.
Excuse me, would you consider playing us?
For the Ultras.
In third place was Catherine O'Hara and Willem Dafoe hustling for Michelob Ultra. This was the top spot featuring celebrities. Tubi may have live-streamed the game for free, but it got no love for its The Z-Suite ad, coming in dead last.
Summarize this article. Help me practice asking for a raise.
Also near the bottom was ChatGPT's The Intelligence Age, casting further skepticism on the popularity of AI.
What do you want to create next?
None for me, thanks. I'm Kevin Carr.
That's our show for today, Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.